Mark my words, this episode, it's going to be one of the best because my guest is the epitome of what it means to be highly sought after. His name is Chris Do. He runs an Emmy award-winning brand consultancy for over 25 years and has worked with well-known brands like Google, McDonald's, Audi, and PlayStation. With more than 1 million subscribers across all his social media platforms, Chris today teaches the world how to value themselves and communicate the value to others through his online education platform, The Future. If you want to know how to grow your social media influence and become a force for good in this world, you would love this interview. Hi, this is Eric here, and you're listening to #Highly Sought After. So Chris, thank you so much. I'm super duper grateful to you, for agreeing to do this interview. I have to ask, really curious, like you're a busy man, you have a lot of people asking for interview requests. Is there a reason why you say yes to this one?
I'm sure there was a really good reason, but I have no idea right now. It could be because of your reach, your audience, or maybe it was about the subject matter, but there's got to be a reason because I do turn down a lot of people who ask me.
You know what? I'm really very grateful and I treasure this. In fact, a lot of my followers who found out that I'm interviewing you, they are extremely excited. They actually asked whether can we do it as live stream, but I was like, nah, we'll record the interview. So I'm going to dive straight into our first question today, right? Chris, you have been in the creative industry for more than 25 years. You're a big name in not just with the creative, but actually with the entrepreneurs as well. And I know this because the people that responded to me were not from the creative industry. My top sales guy, he's only 23 years old, but he was my top guy. He closes 6-figure deals for me. He watches your video every day. Wow. So yes. So Baguio, this is for you, okay? This is for you. I'm interviewing your idol. So I'm just very curious, right? I watch your videos and I realized that you have been doing this for 25 years or maybe even more. What were some of the key inflection points in that journey that led you to be who you are today?
There are many. So let me sprinkle a few out, and then if you want me to go deeper, I will.
I'll love that.
I think one of the most critical things that have happened to me in my life and my career is when I met my business coach. His name is Keir McLaren. I think I was like 4 or 5 years into my business and was feeling like, you know what? I'm hitting a ceiling. I don't know why. I need some help. And this is around 1999, maybe 1998. So it's just a few years into my business. And it's just through a chance encounter. I'm having lunch with the composer, sound designer. He's telling me about how his business is doing really well, how he doubled his business the previous year. And when you hear things like that, you're like, wait a minute. Can you share what has happened? And he's like, yeah, okay. So he was the one who turned me on to my business coach. And that was a 13-year-long relationship with my business coach. So he taught me, we met every single week, and we would meet every single week for an hour and a half without fail. So you're talking about 13 years times something more like 50 weeks each year. So that's really how I got my business skills. A lot of people today will watch me and say, oh, how does this person know all these things? Well, first, you run a business for two decades and you get coached for 13 years. Just so people just need to understand, I've been coached longer than you've been in business, most likely. So that's a difference. So that's an inflection point. The second one, they're kind of paired up together where my wife and I were traveling back from school. And I was teaching at this point, like maybe 13, 14 years. And she said, maybe there's more for you to do in life than just teach a small group of people. And I was like, oh, this is annoying. Why would you say that to me right now? And it made me really think. I didn't have the answer. Well, that paired me up with the next event that changed my life, which was one of my friends from school. We hadn't worked together ever. And like 10 years out of school, he's like, you know what? You want to make some content with me on YouTube? I'm like, no, why would I want to do that? Why would I expose myself? Why would I risk alienating clients? And I'm a behind the camera talent, not in front of the camera talent. And so the spark of my wife planting the seed and this guy named Jose Caballé, he gets together with me and like we make a video. That's not the point that it changes everything. The point in which we make a video that actually connects with the audience in a real, genuine, authentic way, that's the moment my life changes for the better. So there's a couple of inflection points. There's more, but I'll leave them there.
So you mentioned that you did your first YouTube video, right? With
Yes.
Jose. and you got very good response. What kind of response do you get? Could you walk us through that? Make you go like, you know what, I want to do more of these videos.
Yeah. So the first video I made, because I went back to YouTube to find when it was January of 2014. I'm 42 years old. Okay. I've been running my business now for like 22 years or 20 years. So it's, you know, I'm not a young guy. I'm just trying to do this thing. We make several videos. They're okay. You know, they don't take off. They get like 25, 50 views. 50 views, I would be very excited per day. And I would look at it. I'm a very analytical person. So next morning I'm like, oh my God, okay, 48 views. That's not too bad. We're doing better. And at one point, my wife, she's watching my video and she's like, I can't watch your videos. This is unwatchable. And she's like,
the same person who asked you to put yourself out there.
Same person. Yeah, same person. She's like, it's unwatchable. It's like, do you guys prepare? And like, what's the process like? It's so all over the place. And again, it's like you need somebody in your life to tell you the truth. You know, not sugarcoat, look you in the eye and say, you know what, that's garbage. She didn't say it like that, but I'm like, oh, that hurt. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to prepare, I'm going to write, I'm going to put a keynote presentation together. That's the video that changed everything. And it was called something like branding and logo identity design, something like that. Branding identity design. And instead of getting 50 views, we got several hundred views. I'm like, whoa, we hit something. And that was the first video that started to take off, relatively speaking. It wasn't a viral hit. But I'm like, wow. So that was a lesson for us. Put in the work, teach, give generously. Don't try and pitch or sell anything. And that was the game changer.
Got it. Now, so for those of you who don't know, right, Chris has a podcast, and there was that particular podcast that talks about his backstory, which I'll put it in the show notes, and I highly recommend you to go check it out. So, Chris, I'm going to take us, the listeners, back many, many years, right, before you even go to Art Center. Okay. So, may I know what led you to even join graphic design and to decide that you want to make your living out of doing creative work?
Yeah. So this is a seminal moment in my life. I'm 17 years old, going on 18. It's my senior year in high school. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I applied to schools, but I'm waiting to hear back. But my younger brother, he's in the wrestling team, and his coach like, doesn't your brother draw or something? He goes, I know a guy who makes t-shirts. Maybe I can introduce you. And so I'm like, great. This is fantastic. So I meet this guy. His name is Brad Shaboya, and he owns a screen printing company. They print and design t-shirts. Now, Brad's a graphic designer, so I go in and I show my pathetic portfolio, but there's enough there that Brad can like, all right, I'll give you a shot. Now, keep in mind, this is in the late 90s, you know, mid to late 90s, early 90s. And minimum wage is like, what, $5 an hour? Okay, and I've been working minimum wage labor jobs. And Brad's like, you know what, I will pay you $18 an hour. Like, whoa. Wow. This is like real money. I remember being so excited that I called my older brother and said, you don't know how much money I'm going to be making. He's like, how much? $18 an hour. He's like, really? Yeah. So what I was doing is I was inking. I was tracing his drawings and inking them over so that it can be turned into a t-shirt. I got to tell you, the first couple of days I was doing that, my hand was all shaky because it's like, I'm so nervous inking, you know, and he's like, let me show you. And it's perfect. My hand's like, whoa, just trying to do this thing. But during my employment with him, he sent me on an errand to go pick up some typesetting. I didn't even know what that word meant. He's like, just go to Dean's house. Here's his address. He's expecting you. Just pick this up. I'm like, okay, fine. I drive over to Dean's house, not too far away. Dean opens the door. He's like, man, you're early, but come on in. And I'm like, okay. I don't even know what to expect. I come in, and when we turn the corner, we go into his design studio, and he had like 2 desks, beautiful like equipment, pens, and protractor, T-square, everything was there. I'm like, what do you do here? It's like, I'm a designer. I'm like, really? What does that mean? Like, you made all these things? Like, yeah. And he was like probably thinking, what an idiot. Like, everybody knows this. He's working on his little Mac, the beige 512K, all-in-one monochrome 6 or 8 inch screen. It's tiny. And he hits Command P, and then this thing comes alive, and then out comes a tiny little piece of paper out of this giant machine, and it's a typeset. And I'm so impressed with this studio. It's like a dream I never knew possible was here, and he's real. And his name is Dean Walker. And I asked Dean, is this what you do for a living? And he's like, yeah. You support your family this way? He goes, yeah. So that's the moment I knew I was going to be a graphic designer. Everything else just went out the door.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So now we understand why you do what you do. And then of course you went to school, you did fantastic. By the way, Chris is very competitive. He's good at what he does. And then he started blind. Right. And I looked through your portfolio and it's impressive. And you won a couple of Emmy awards. I was in your office, live stream, Facebook. And I want to know, when you started this brand consultancy firm, now obviously we know you're good at what you do and that means something, right? But for you to do it for so many years, to be able to attract talents and to continue to have high profile clients, what do you think were some of the things you did right in blind that led to your company's success?
Probably a couple different things. One is be good to people, because you don't know where they're going to go in their life. And some of our earliest opportunities came up from me just helping out friends in school and then helping friends of friends, etc. And I would do that. And oftentimes I would get paid nothing or very, very little for what it is I was doing. But I did it and just kept doing it, and I picked the right people to be around. And eventually when they got an opportunity, they paid me back by introducing me to higher profile people. So a little freebie job turns into a logo identity job, which turns into an opportunity to design titles for a commercial. And next thing I know, I'm working on car commercials. And it was just like that. The other thing that I just don't want to discount here is we're talking about 1995. It's the birth of the desktop motion design. I'm in Los Angeles at the heart of where all this stuff is happening. And it's just timing, place, and everything. If I was in Chicago, probably different story. If I started in 2001, different story. But I started at the beginning. So I'm probably part of the first or 1.5 generation, generation 1.5 of motion designers. When I started, the term motion designer was not even a term yet. After Effects had just been purchased by Adobe from Cosa, and I think it was on version 1.1 or 1.2 or something. It was still really super early. And so when you're getting in on a market that's hot, that's early, there's no competition, you get to eat all you can eat. And the only thing that was standing between me and success was business skills. I say only, but that's a giant thing. So you can do the work, maybe, but you got to learn the business side. So that's also where I'm very fortunate to meet business people in the industry who taught me how to build a bid, how to talk about money. And so all those things compound on the success.
Fantastic. And, if you guys want to pick Chris Do's brains on business skills, keep listening to the interview. There is a platform that he has built with a super big vision, and we're going to talk about that, later on in the interview. So I titled today's interview as How to Grow One's Social Media Influence and Be a Force for Good, because I like what you said. It's like, how do you make money, but without losing your soul, right? Because everybody out there, the rhetoric and the narrative is how to make money, but money is not the end goal. It's for something. So we'll talk about part one first, right? Because you can be good at what you do, but if you have no influence, like the book that you read, for those of you who can see the video, that's Pocket Full of Dough. It's a very beautiful book. It's a beautiful book. Sometimes I just hold it so I look good. You're like, what are you reading? Oh, I'm reading some cool book. It makes me look cool. So you mentioned in your on marketing section that it's not just about good at what you do, but people need to know you. They need to trust you. So let's tease that topic a little bit more, right? How do you know when you are a person of influence? Is there like certain metrics that we can look at to know, that person is influential?
Yeah. So this is where I was having a conversation with somebody like, what is marketing? Or then like, what is networking? Because they say like your network is your net worth, something like that. So networking is who you know, and marketing or influence is who knows you. All right. Yeah. So you get work when people know, like, and trust you. So they have to know you before they can like you, and they have to like you before they can trust you. So the hardest part, the part that's holding everybody back, is the part where they get to know you. Okay, so how do they get to know you? Well, you can do what many people do, which is, I'm a designer, I'm a designer, I'm a painter, and that's what they do. And after a while, when enough people do that, people become really numb to that. Okay, so you're just another designer. Oh, okay, you're just another painter. What makes you different than John or Mary or Bob? You're all the same as far as I can tell. Okay, so what do you have to do? So for me, the way I am able to stand out is you just do something a little bit different than everyone else, and that's enough to separate you. See, our mind and the way that we survive and we've evolved is we are able to spot differences. If you see 1,000 white cars, but there's a red car, that's where your eye will go. And if there's 1,000 red cars, there's one white car, that's where you'll go. So for me, it was about using my design background, teaching entrepreneurship, putting them all together. And I started to teach people design concepts that intersect with business and marketing concepts. And then you start to build your authority on a subject. And then ultimately, if you don't quit, if you really, really work on it, maybe you become a person of influence. I'm still not entirely comfortable with the term influencer, but basically, I like to share what I think. And if enough people like what it is that I share, then you become influential.
I love that. Let's dive deeper into the differentiation, right? Because in Chris' book, he actually shared a story about how, this guy was trying to apply for a job and nobody cares about his resume. And later on, when he visited the I think one of the employee, he realized the reason why is because all the resumes look the same. It's white, it's black text. And so he did something to make his resume stand out just a little bit. And that was how he got selected, right?
Right.
So how do one find his or her differentiation? Is there a certain thought process that can lead us there?
Yes, there's a couple of different things. There's external ways to differentiate yourself and internal ways to differentiate yourself. For example, there are markets and categories of people who are generally ignored by design services. Like say, for example, if you were to work on wood carving tools, like you want to become a designer for people who work on wood carving tools, well, they're generally ignored by a lot of designers because it's not sexy, it's not interesting to a lot of people. And so if you focus on that niche externally, then you can become known for the person who does a very highly specialized thing. But the more interesting way to differentiate yourself is internally. Like, what are you doing? Who are you? Okay. So there's a guy, his name is Aaron James Draplin, and he's a very well-known graphic designer because he's done a very good job of talking and about himself, his background, his story, and weaving that into everything he does. So he's a guy who grew up in the Midwest, I think in Michigan, and then he moves out to Portland, and he starts to assume this personality as a big man with a beard and a trucker cap, and he tells you all these little personal stories, and you get to really fall in love with him. My friend Yo Santosa, who is a branding expert, says people do not fall in love with corporations. They fall in love with personalities. So you have to figure out what's your personality. So this is where you bring out your backstory, what makes you weird, your interests, your hobbies. The idiosyncratic things are the things that make you memorable. So when you're cookie cutter, if everyone's 6 foot tall and you're 5'10", you'll stand out. So you're taller, shorter, smaller, fatter, whatever it is, you need to lean into who you are, and the weird parts are what make you wonderful.
Oh my God, this is the first time I've heard the distinction between intrinsic differentiation and extrinsic, right? Because I was about to tell you that, I feel like I'm in a pivotal point of my life. We learn marketing and people say that in marketing, you have to focus, right? So I have been in the training. I'm probably 2 years younger than you. So probably the same year, same batch. I remember when I first joined the training industry, I was struggling because I was teaching too generic stuff, right? I was teaching communication. So someone then said that you need to focus. And then I found one vertical that I fell in love with, and I've been doing business with them for the last 2013, so last 8 years, which is the insurance vertical. So the financial service. So I went all in, and I went regional, then global. Then I started to ask myself, is this all? Because I'm going to hit 40. I have still another 20 or 30 more years to go. Do I just stay with one vertical or do I pivot? But all of a sudden, I realized that shouldn't be the question I ask. It's not about the external differentiation or what I teach or who I teach, but it's about who I am and how do I put that personality in everything I do. Am I on the right track?
You're on the right track. You totally understand it. Yes.
I get it. So guys, it's about self-awareness. That means we have to know ourselves, our strengths. I like your weirdness. And by the way, Chris is a Star Wars fan, so we all love him already. Okay. Another question. Do you think there's a difference between, because you speak a lot about mindset, right? In fact, you have 2 chapters, one on mindset, one on beliefs, which I think is pretty similar. Yeah. So what is the difference between a mindset of a person with an influence of just 100 people versus the mindset of a person with a million people influence? Is there a difference in that mindset?
I'm not sure. I mean, you're influential if you influence one person, I think. And it's just a degree of scale, scope, and reach. And I think if you are very specific with your messaging, for example, if I only talked about typefaces of a certain foundry, I can find a really dedicated group who just want to hear from me. But is your mom going to care about it? Is your uncle or the new students? Who knows who cares about it? And it's fine. And I think it's actually really important when you're working to find your voice that you work towards finding a very small audience. And there's a lot of power in scale and small scale. But then you realize, like Oprah or the president of the United States, they have broad appeal because they're talking to lots of people. So they're going to be more famous or more influential. And so the things that they say are going to hit a lot more people. So this is a balance, because you don't want to become a generic person because you want to be more influential. So you start with the core and slowly you start to find the edges. The edges are really kind of an interesting to explore. The edges are what starts to hit more people. And then you find kind of your voice in the market, in the world, right? So I started out talking about typography, about pricing creative projects. And as I start to expand, people are like, well, what are your thoughts on belief systems? Or why am I stuck? Or why can't I charge this amount of money? And then you start to understand it's not about the tools or the techniques or the tips I'm going to give. It really has, it's a reflection of someone's unresolved childhood trauma. Okay? Somewhere along the way, little Timmy, little Mary, something happened to them and it could be the most innocent little thing that then triggers a response and they hardwired into their emotional core, this is bad. For example, it could be like they lose money or they over purchase or they overpaid for something very small, like insignificant, and then a parent admonishes them for spending too much money. And now they have an unhealthy relationship with spending money. So when there's an opportunity to get coaching or training or to invest in their own education, like, no, and they don't even know why. They're just like, that's not a good idea. And so they live their entire life based on like one, unfortunately, very seismic event, at least in the child's mind, that they carry with them for a really long time until somebody says, let's travel back in time. Let's go back to where you first felt pain around this idea. Go as far back as you can. And they're like, okay, so something happened to you 6 years old. And now we can look back from the adult point of view and understand that a child making a lifelong decision is not someone that you would wholly trust to guide you for the rest of your life. And then you start to work on unraveling that. So that's where this kind of conversation can go. So you let your audience find it with you and you find where that edge is. And then you hit, not the mainstream, but you hit a much larger audience.
I get it. So meaning to say, at the beginning, focus on a topic which is your core competency. But as you put out the message into the market, you get market's feedback as they ask follow-up questions. And so that's when you start leaning towards those areas. Okay, fantastic. Maybe let me flip the question a little bit, right? You know, remember the Chris that produced a YouTube video with 50 views? Yeah. Now Chris is producing videos with 1.7 million views. His best video was 1.7 million views. It's on Instagram. It's about Instagram. So has that changed you? Like, no, now every time you're in front of a camera, knowing that it's not 50 people watching your videos, you possibly could have 1 million people around the world watching your video. Does that change your approach in creating content, or does that change anything about you?
I don't think it changes you, but if you, this is what happens. It's like chasing the dragon. So you have a hit and you say, well, shoot, it's better to do work and get a hit versus make something that nobody watches. What's the point? Right? And so you try to go back and you say, well, what is the audience, the community? What did they want from me? And why did this work? And then you keep trying to figure that out. But I don't get sad like when we make a good video and nobody watches it instantly. It's okay. I believe in the long tail, in working on something today that 3, 6, 9, 12 months, 2 years from now, somebody's going to watch and like, wow. And then it could take off. Our videos aren't made as viral hits. We don't follow those formulas. And it's not that we're trying not to. It's like we don't know what those formulas are as they relate to design and business education. We know if we do some kind of stunt, if we do a prank or something like that, then we'll have a viral hit. But that doesn't really follow the purpose and the mission of what we're trying to do, which is to teach the world. So we're in it for the long haul and we'll do that. But in terms of like, does it change my mindset? Like when I'm recording the video? No, it's not any different than me talking to you right now. I don't know if you have an audience of 1, 10,000, 100,000 or 100 million. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to connect to one person, and that's you. right? So if I can answer your one question, maybe there's 100 people who might get value from the same answer. And that's all I do. I don't really think about the other stuff.
Well, and I guess you already kind of answered the question, right? That when we are creating a piece of content, we always think about it, one person that we're trying to get our point across. It could be the avatar of your perfect client, but that at the end of the day, public speaking is really still one-to-one conversations.
Yeah, you try to. You have to make it intimate.
Beautiful. Now, in Chris' Instagram, he says he's an introvert, right? But he has a big voice and big message. So do you think you being an introvert has been an advantage for you, in building your influence? Because there's always this main rhetoric, right? That, if you're an extrovert, you have a colorful personality, you're going to make it big online, more people will follow you. But is that really true? Is that really true?
That's a good question. I think extroverts have a little easier time in this world because they know how to work with people and they don't feel emotionally drained. Their energy is not gone when they spend it with people. So my friend Jose could walk into a room full of strangers, right? Barefoot, unshaven, dirty, and just take the food literally off someone else's plate and start talking to them with his mouth full. That's just who he is. Me, I can enter a room with a suit, clean shaven, ready to present, and feel really uptight. Just because I'm like, I don't know these people. Why would they talk to me? This is weird. I want to get out of here. You have all those thoughts. So yeah, I think there's an inherent advantage from a networking point of view, like human to human interaction, that extroverts may have over introverts. But that doesn't mean introverts don't have their own power. Okay. So I wouldn't wish my life to be any different than exactly the way it is right now, because despite Jose and I being on the opposite ends of our introversion and extroversion, we're on the opposite side. I have a way bigger influence and audience than he does, because he has skills that I don't have, and I have skills he doesn't have. I'm contemplative. I read and I think. It's easier for me to have focused thoughts. I don't feel the need to be around people all the time, so I have a lot of time to process and think about the things I think about. And I'm a really good listener. I've been quiet for a lot of my life, and so I'm a better observer. I can be potentially more empathetic than he can be, because when he's in the room, it's like it's me talking. I've arrived, and he makes a lot of noise in a very good way. He would describe himself as an obnoxious extrovert. Like, wow.
Oh.
Right. So that's where I'm like, okay, so introverts do have their own power. For example, speaking to you on a one-to-one level, I may outperform an extrovert. Sitting down, thinking and writing and getting ready for a presentation, I may have the advantage. The extrovert is probably going to have the advantage when it comes to stepping on stage and feeling really comfortable. But I make up for that in preparation, in knowledge, and just the way I think about things. Right? I can't get away with a loud personality. I have to be more thoughtful, and I'm going to outwork someone. That's how I do it.
This is beautiful, because what I'm getting from you is that it really doesn't matter if you're an extrovert or introvert. First of all, you need to know thyself, right? You need to know, are you an extrovert or introvert? And then use what God has given you, what talents you have, make the best out of what you have, right? So I guess that's the answer, man. Whether you guys are introverts or extroverts, doesn't matter. But if you're introverts, then I really recommend you to go check out Chris, because, you can role model after him. Otherwise, for extroverts, go check out Jose from Tijuana, right? You always mention some guy that you always go to. Was it him, Jose Tijuana?
Yeah, actually, it's from Puerto Rico. He's originally from Puerto Rico. Yeah. So he always refers to himself as the obnoxious Puerto Rican.
Okay. So go check him out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chris, the future is an education platform, right? So you want to teach the world. And let's face it, that there is a lot of free information out there. There's a lot of how-to strategies, ideas, a lot of podcasts going on. And why is it that with so much information out there, even on like how to be successful, how to be influential, why are not all people there yet, even with all this information out there?
Oh, there's no shortage of information. People aren't there because of probably two things: a limiting belief that it's not going to work. It's not for them. It's for special people, not named you. And the other part too is their reluctance to take action, their desire for short-term reward versus long-term gain. And when things get tough, people quit. And you have to have a combination of all those things, right? So I want to have an open mind. I want to learn, and I want to surrender. Basically, when I look for a piece of information, when I look for a teacher or a coach, somebody to help me, I have to surrender. I have to leave my ego and what I think to be true at the door, because what's the point? I don't know who said this, but it says you can't fill a glass already full. And that's you. If you walk in saying my knowledge and what it is that I know is full and filled, well, there's no more room to add anything. So you have to first empty some ideas. And actually, I've read books on this about how we learn. Forgetting is an important part to learning.
Cool.
It's critical. You have to make room for new ideas. So you have to forget the old ideas. And if you're stuck, and this is where people are, they're in love with their own thinking and their own perspective, so they can't adopt a new perspective. In fact, when they hear a new idea, they're so threatened by the new idea because it challenges their worldview that they go on attack mode. They're like, that's stupid. This guy's a scammer. It'll never work. Only for people in LA or only for bald Asian guys. They'll say whatever they want to say. And so they can't get out of their own way. And that's usually the problem.
Chris, there's so many. I mean, both of us we are in the education industry, right? And clients will always come to us and say, oh, you run a program, what kind of results can you create? But we always know that it takes two to clap. So how can we help ourselves be a lot more teachable and less defensive to new ideas, especially when you're already successful? It's when you're not successful, I think you're more teachable because the ideas that you have doesn't work, and you know that. And that's why you're welcoming ideas. But when you have a certain amount of success, I find that's the bunch of people that have the most difficulty. I'm speaking about myself too, that I find that when because the idea helped me be successful, I can't let go of this idea because I feel that part of my identity is there, part of my success is there, and it makes me actually not teachable. And therefore I plateau and then I spiral downwards. And I know there's a vicious cycle out there. How do we break that?
Okay, I have a slightly different perspective, okay? I think the most difficult people to teach are the ones who don't want to be taught, who aren't successful. It sounds crazy. And I think the people who are easiest to teach are the people in the middle. They're going to be successful. They're open to new ideas and they're going to try lots of things. And perhaps on the very, very far right, where they're ultra successful, like the millionaires and billionaires of the world, maybe they're the ones who think I have nothing left to learn. But I doubt it, because people who are self-made, who are super successful, know that the way they got there was to seek mentorship, to follow direction, take massive action, to have a bias towards taking action, and course correct along the way. Usually, their rule will be, I'm not supposed to be the smartest person in the room. That's a humility. See, like usually I don't get into arguments with successful people because successful people say, well, I have a strong belief in something, but I'm open. It's usually the people who are not successful, the ones at the bottom who are like, you know what? You're telling me that if I just changed one thing in my life, my whole life would be different? Well, screw you, because that means that my entire life has been a waste.
Wow.
See,
okay.
When you read books like from Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, learning, growth, change, all those kinds of things, focus, dedication, sacrifice, they're all there. See, so that's the difference. So I'm not sure I agree with that. So you may be in a weird pocket where maybe you feel like you're too successful. So you're like,
nah. I'm speaking in the context of fitness, actually. Okay. It's like, because I have a fitness coach and I'm always fighting him. And it's so ironic that I shouldn't be fighting him because he's stronger than me. So when you said that, it hit me. It made me go, oh my God, you're right. That there's all the information out there, but the question is, are you teachable? Right? Are you willing to let go of the old ideas that may have worked for you? So what are some tips that you can help us so that we become more teachable? Is there something we can do? Yeah,
there's a couple of things you can do. Like I said, I think you have to do maybe some ego work. You have to surrender. I don't know if you're a fan of like Hollywood films, but one that I reference a lot is The Karate Kid with Ralph Macchio, right? Yeah. And Mr. Miyagi and Daniel LaRusso. So the thing is, Daniel LaRusso gets his ass kicked all the time by the bullies. We know that. Yeah. And he's from out of town. A single mom, the whole bit. It's tough. So Mr. Miyagi saves his buddy. He's like, will you teach me karate? And he's like, no. He's like, please, I'm begging you, because I'm just getting my butt kicked all the time. And Mr. Miyagi says, under one condition. And Daniel's like, yes, I don't care. He's so desperate. And Mr. Miyagi says, do everything I say without questioning. He goes, that's it? He goes, that's it. So he shows up and he tells Daniel to wax the car, wax on, wax off, to paint the fence, do it a very specific way. And after grueling days and weeks of doing this, he's like, man, I am just so freaking fed up right now. When are you going to teach me karate? He goes, what do you mean? I've been teaching you karate. He's like, no, you haven't. You've been making me do all your chores. I'm just a monkey, a dog in this place. He goes, Daniel, wax on. And he tries to hit him, wax off. And they go in. So he's like, oh my God. So Daniel initially surrendered to the teachings of Mr. Miyagi. And Mr. Miyagi knew that in order for you to be a good student, you must first submit yourself. You must surrender. And if you're a fan of Kung Fu films, it's almost always the way. There's some homeless, wretch, drunken person, and then they find a master, and the master is the most cruel teacher ever because they break them until they can submit. And when you surrender, everything can happen. Now, I know this, like people who suffer with drug addiction, one of their things is to surrender to a power greater than them. They must believe they're a smaller part of a greater universe, and the universe has order. Until they do that, they're going to constantly struggle, right? So I say it the same way. When you go to school, the way they get you to submit, to surrender, is they charge you so much in tuition, at least here in America, where like, what is the point for me to go to school to study under masters and not listen to them?
Absolutely.
Yet people still ignore their teachers.
Oh, this is beautiful. So now we know, right? It's not just about information, but we need to be open to these ideas. We need to be teachable. And to be teachable, we need to surrender, right? And actually being forgetful helps as well, because you forget the old ideas and then you will be more open to new ideas. And most importantly, be biased towards action.
Yes.
Now, there's a second part to it that you mentioned, that sometimes we have limiting beliefs, which is why we are not willing to invest in programs, or we're not willing to spend, right? And there's a very big bunch of people out there who are not willing to spend money and to invest money on themselves. And I'm not talking about buying expensive bags or going for holidays, but invest in learning. Like they're not willing to pay money for learning. How do we help these people?
I don't know. And I don't know if I have the power to help people who don't want to be helped. They say that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I just say, like, maybe now's not your time. Maybe you have to yet still struggle, hit an obstacle, have some kind of calamity happen in your life where you hit rock bottom and you say, oh my gosh, I need to surrender. I need to submit. I need to learn all those things, right? I have a friend, very successful artist. Financially, he's almost broke. And then what happened to him was, in his youth, he thought the money was always going to be there. So when money came in, he'd buy expensive things. He would live because he thought the faucet of money would always be open to him. And eventually, as he gets older and older, the faucet becomes dry, right? So his wife, her father passed away in a different country, and he didn't have enough money to send his wife. So her father's dying, and then he passes away, and his daughter's not next to him, and not only is the wife sad, but my friend is heartbroken because he didn't take care of his business. And so I keep telling him, when is the day that you're going to wake up and do what's necessary, not what you like, what makes you feel good, but necessary for your wife and your child? And so we'll never know that answer until he knows it. And so he's not a young man either. Okay, so everybody finds their own time and place in life. And sometimes people wake up really early, meaning you might know someone who's really young, who's 12 years old, who's already like watching the videos and reading the books and so on their game. You also might know someone who's 52, who's like, I don't know. Things are working out all right. I don't know how to help those people. Each person arrives ready to do the work, or they do not. But I do know that the champions, the successful ones, the world breakers, they're the ones who are ready to take action and they're ready to submit.
How do we start getting ourselves into that mindset? Like if I'm talking to people who they know they need to do these things, and they're trying to get themselves, to be more driven, to be more motivated, right? To be more open. How can we? What are some routines or processes they can have to have that kind of champion mindset?
There's a couple of things you can do. You can always put yourself in a state of confusion and disarray, so you're open to new ideas all the time. There's little things that you can do. Like, for example, if like I don't have hair, obviously, but if you have hair, you comb your hair with your right hand, comb your hair with your left hand. Walk backwards sometimes. Take a different route to work. Walk to work. Bike to work. Do something to disrupt the pattern to keep your mind placid and just, it's pliable. It's like, that's what you want, not placid, pliable. You want to be able to stay loose. If you work out, right, you want to stretch, you want to be limber, you want to be able to have full range of motion so that you can do all the exercises to the best of your ability. So we need that stretch. The other thing that you can do is probably the more important of the two things. Surround yourself with people who are in constant states of change, flux. We want to be around them because, like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? By virtue of them doing all these things, we feel like we're moving backwards if we don't try and keep up. I think Jim Rohn said this. He said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Absolutely.
So if you're around negative people, if you're around naysayers, if you're around people who often feel sad for themselves, feel self-pity, get away from them. Surround yourself with people who are positive, who are optimistic, who are investing all the time in their own growth and their own learning, and you will become like them.
That's so true. That's so true. Because imagine like you're going for dinner and you ask like, what's everybody doing? And everybody has all their fanciful stories of the challenges that they face. And then when it comes to you and like, not much. Well, there was a new TV show on Netflix, and immediately you either will leave the group or you will step up.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is so good. So that's influence, right? I want to talk a little bit about your book, which is A Pocket for a Dough, and especially marketing, because it's one of my favorite topics. You mentioned that we need to be a T-shaped person, a T-shape, right? So develop deep expertise in one area of focus, but have wide interests outside our area of expertise. And you put that in marketing. Is there a reason why? How does being a T person actually help you in marketing?
Yeah, because people in the world prefer specialists. People prefer people who have deep experience and expertise. In almost every facet of life, when you have the option, you would choose someone who's done something for a really long time and have chosen to focus on this, right? 100%. So if your car breaks down and you drive an expensive exotic sports car, you're not going to take it to the general dealership. You're going to take it to the one who deals with European sports cars. That's what you would do, right? If you're going to get eye surgery, you're not going to want the one who also makes pasta in the back. Why would I want that? I just want the eye surgeon. And it happens like that. But creative people will get really confused because we like to do lots of different things. We're divergent thinkers. So we think doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, it's going to make us really strong. In the long run, it does, but it makes you really hard to be marketable. And I find that in my own life and in looking at our competitors, the ones who have a very narrow area of focus tend to accelerate and have much more success. The ones that are broad and hard to get your hand or head wrapped around. Like when you're looking for a studio that does beautiful hand-lettered calligraphy, you're going to find the world's best hand-lettering calligrapher. That's just how it works. You're not going to get the person who designs symbols for Starbucks and packages for Nike. It usually doesn't work that way. Usually. That's how it works. So that's why I say having the internal focus expressed externally is how you're going to draw people to you.
Beautiful. And I've asked the question, I watch a lot of your videos, right? And they constantly get high viewership. So the one that I really like was the 1.7 million, the how to get 10K followers on IG. I'm just curious, right? What is your content creation process?
Oh, okay. It depends, but these days it's usually around me listening to what people want. This is critical. Before you create, you need to listen first. And so when I see, this is usually a good formula. When I see something that I hate, I say, that's a piece of garbage. And that's stupid. Why do people do this? To me, that is an opportunity. Why? And I ask myself this question, why does this offend you so much? Well, the design is this and the messaging is so simplistic, or that's not the truth. This is really what you need to do. And so that becomes the foundation for a new idea. So usually I'm reacting to something or I'm listening to a very specific request. And if I hear it enough or I hear it in a way that's so emotional and so powerful, I know that a solution is out there. Now, I started thinking about this, right? I started to have some success with Instagram. And I would go onto college campuses ready to talk about business and about pricing, and they want to hear all that stuff. And then some person would inherently raise their hands like, so how'd your Instagram account grow so fast? And I'm like, do you guys want to hear it? And then everybody's just like quiet. And they lean in like, yes, please. Then I'm like, so pricing, you don't really want to know, but you want to grow on Instagram. Okay. So that's a clue. And I'm not a dumb guy. When I hear a clue like that, I pick it up. I'm like, huh. Let me sit on this. And so what happens is another person will ask me, so how'd you do it? and I break it down. How'd you do it? I break it down. All of a sudden I see commonalities, and I also see their reaction to me expressing it to them. So I'm like, let me put some thought into this. That's when I go and do a talk, and hopefully that talk gets tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds, and sometimes 1 million views. That's usually how it works.
Oh my God, beautiful. So it's not just about creating content out of nowhere, but it's about paying attention to the market's feedback, right? But also paying attention to what frustrates you, right? Because anything that frustrates you usually means that you're something you want to say. It's the same with business, right? People say, how do I get business ideas? Well, the best way is to look for a problem that you want to solve, because you're sick and tired of having people screw things up for you and you want to solve that. That gives you that drive. So wow, I guess that's it, man. Those of you listening to this, if you want to create content, just think about your own business. What are you fed up about? What are you upset about? Then go fix it, right? Go fix it. And then that itself is already a piece of content. Now, with so much content being produced, right? So that would be a big macro way of thinking about what are the themes and the topics. There's so much videos being produced on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Is that in your team? Do you guys have a certain process on how you differentiate your videos, or how do you make sure that your video stands out from another person who's also talking about how to grow your Instagram, for example?
Okay, there's a couple of things, and I'm gonna throw some shade out there. Okay, so this might get a little spicy in this part.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so when I watch videos on how to grow on Instagram, and then I look at their account and it's got 40,000 subs, I'm like, really? Really? Like, we'll do that in like a few weeks. What are you talking about? So they don't know. And I feel like oftentimes that people who make content on how to do something have yet to do it themselves. But what they've done is they've read best practices or some blog post that somebody must have written. It's not actually from experience. This is the general problem I had with the internet on YouTube and social media. The reason why I was so reluctant to make videos, because I saw a lot of hack amateurs who don't know what they're doing, have no credentials, haven't done anything of note, and are practicing and preaching really bad things. So I'll dig into their videos. They might have 700,000 views. I'm like, this is what the world wants? Like super, very surfacey, superficial ideas there's no real depth there. Everybody can tell you, oh, post twice a day or do that. Those are generic, dumb things that anybody can tell you. And apparently people like generic, dumb things because that's where the views are. Because ultimately, I don't think anybody actually really wants to learn how to do something that's hard.
Yeah, that's why the word hacks seems to do very well, because
that's right.
Implies easiness and laziness.
Yes. And here's the thing that you need to know. If it's easy to do, then everybody does it, therefore taking away the specialness of it. Not everyone is exceptional, because if everyone is exceptional, then no one's exceptional. So what I like to do is like, and I do it from like a teacher point of view, like, how do I get you to be a better human being and get the reward of a lot of people to view things? So we have to get into writing. It's not easy to teach writing. And we want to teach frameworks and structure and how to figure out your hook and how to build anticipation for a payoff. So now we're going to get much deeper, and it's going to take a while for people to get that this is a good video. They just want the quick cookie cutter shortcuts.
Exactly.
And I get that. I'm not going to make that kind of content because there's a lot of people already making that kind of content. And like, again, all I ask you to do is look at their account, look at their following, look at the quality of their posts. Is it generic? Does it feel cookie cutter? And that's usually what they have. So I'm not so worried about being different in that way. I'm trying to approach it from a more substantive point of view that's going to help people become better communicators, to be a little bit smarter, to develop some expertise in what it is that they do. Having said that, though, there are a couple of things that we do differently than everyone else. One, I used to make commercials and music videos for a living. I have a team. I have 4 full-time editors who work for me, and they have backgrounds in cinematography and editing and filmmaking and broadcast journalism, communication. It's not 2 kids, 2 young people, no offense to anybody, that's running out of their garage trying to figure out how to use a camera. We know what we're doing. We're just trying to be better teachers at scale. And so the other thing is, I've been teaching for 15 years, way before I made a YouTube video. I was teaching at a highly regarded private art school. And so I have that. I've run a company. So I bring all of that to play. And the last little bit is I bring my, sometimes, a little snappy personality. You know, I like to have fun. I like to make fun of people because I want people to be entertained while they learn. And that combination put together make up me. And
Which
nobody
is
can
what
duplicate that.
And you said that right at the beginning, right? Which is understand
Right.
your idiosyncrasies and then incorporate that inside there.
Mm-hmm.
But my takeaway from you is that maybe that's it. That the best way to create content is to first do something in your life. Because I think what money come by these days is experiences, right? I mean, I could really just repurpose content and just tell people what to do, but there's a lot more weight and influence if it comes from real life experiences, and the nuances is very clear. So I guess that's it. Even for myself as a content creator, it's to do more so that we make more mistakes. And actually people like to learn more about your mistakes than your success, and then share a repeatable, successful framework, but that comes with time. I love that. So step number one to be a powerful content creator or be a powerful person of influence is to go get out there and live your life and do more, experiment more, make more mistakes, and then come back and share your victory stories.
Yeah. And you can share while you go. And you don't have to wait to become victorious to report back. You can share while you go, but take it from a point of view like, I'm just sharing something I learned today. Not like I'm an expert. I'm not an Instagram marketing guru. No, just don't. That's fake. Just say, you know what? I'm on a journey. I have 0 followers and I learned something today. I gave it a try and it seems to be working. Who knows, tomorrow might be different. And so you're going to be very vulnerable and you're going to enroll an audience into your whole process of learning, and they're going to grow up with you. And that's really powerful stuff.
Got it. How would you say if, let's say, like even for myself, right? When I first started, I did not start off teaching social media. I mean, I studied computer science, but I'm more interested in, personal development than social media. This whole area of me now teaching about personal branding came because I was struggling as a trainer in Singapore and no one bothers about giving me the job. And then was when I realized that life is a popularity game, that, people need to like you first. That's why I resonate with what you say. And our entire framework of our content is K, L, and R, that for you to be successful, you need to be known, you need to be loved, you need to be respected for your knowledge. But my problem is, at the beginning, it was very easy because I was a noob. I was learning. I was just sharing my own experiences. But now that I'm doing it for a living, sometimes it becomes difficult for me to make mistakes because people expect me to get it right all the time. Like when I try to experiment a new piece of content, I get very fearful because I fear that, like you said, if Eric's going to teach social media, his content better be doing well. But sometimes we need to, you said this before, like quantity creates quality, right? You need to put out lots of content and then you get good stuff. So it's a personal advice. How do I pull myself away from that public image of me supposing to be a teacher to be a student? Because I want to be a good student, and that's what makes me who I am at the beginning. And I find it sometimes more difficult to be a student anymore because the teacher thing comes up more.
Yeah. I heard this from Jim Quick, and he wrote the book Limitless, I believe. And he said something like, the best teachers are the best students, and the best students are the best teachers.
Yes.
You cannot be a great teacher if you no longer are a great student. So I'm going to warn you. There's a word of warning there for you. Okay, Eric? I want you to think about that. And I want to share some data with you just so you have a perspective on how I look at the world. To date, we've made over 1,300 videos on YouTube in the last 7 years. 1,300 videos. And do you know how many videos have passed 1 million views? 8. And of those 8 videos that passed 1 million views, 3 of them came in the last 30 days. So prior to that, I would only have 5 videos that made it past the 1 million viewed mark, which in today's time isn't even that much, considering some big influencers will make a video that get $30 million views in a week. Okay. So let's do the math here. My math isn't that good, but even if we had 10 videos for 1,000, that's 1%. So the number of videos that we have had that are hits in the million range is less than 1%. Okay. And that success only came, it's about to double really soon, in terms of like the last 30 days. So what I'm telling you is it takes a lot quantity before you get to quality. Chasing the quality before the quantity is getting the order wrong. Okay. So what happens? You make a video that people don't like. So what?
Learn from it.
They don't like that video. They can make their own video. This has nothing to do with them. This has nothing to do with them. This has something to do with your own personal progress and your journey. You have to learn to love the process before you can seek perfection. Okay? So you are going to make videos just for you. And remember, I could watch your videos and say, you suck, I'll make my own video. And that's my prerogative. Totally okay. But for you to grow, you have to try things. You have to make a lot of mistakes because innovation is inherently messy and wasteful. You cannot innovate by just trying to be efficient. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. You want to be efficient, you want to be perfect, that's one thing, but not innovative. You cannot innovate without making a lot of mistakes. You have to get through a lot of garbage before you find something that's new and different. And as soon as you do, what happens? Everybody copies you. But good news is this: the people who are around, the people who are paying attention, will always refer back to you,
to the source,
the original.
Yes.
How it works.
Oh my God.
I didn't invent this. I did not invent what it is I'm doing, right? I actually learned from somebody else. These carousels that I'm doing on Instagram using a certain typeface. But all of a sudden, because at the velocity in which I grew, there's a lot of people who's like, oh, that's the Chris Do clone look. And I don't care. I don't own anything. I'm not trying to take it, but that's what people give you credit for. So there can only be one person who's going to get credit for that. And it takes a lot of mistakes to be that person who then starts yet a new trend.
Oh, I love it. It makes me think about how we should reposition ourselves. Like, you're right. To be a good teacher, you need to be a good student, right? And yeah, thank you so much for that. That didn't come in from the list of questions I have, but I just have to get it in. And that leads us very nicely to the end of our interview, where Chris had a very big vision, and he says that his mission is to inspire and teach 1 billion people, right? And that's a huge being a force for good. It's a 1,000 jump, and it's probably going to take a lifetime to get there, right? So 2-part question. Number 1, how do you even arrive at such an inspiring mission?
Okay, I just like big round numbers. Okay. So if I said I want to teach 1 million people, well, we already have 1.3 million subs on YouTube. Yeah. And the way these mission things work is it's got to be so big, it's going to keep you busy for a really long time, maybe multiple lifetimes. Like if you want to say end world hunger, how many lifetimes is it going to take? But it's a worthwhile mission to pursue, because if you can feed one more child, that's a good thing that you've done. So if I could teach one more person, that's a good thing, even if I fall 999 million short of the billion goal. I'm okay with that, because that's still 1 million people. And so, you want something that rolls off the tongue. I don't want to say I want to teach 10 million. It's just 1 million. Well, the next number is 1 billion. And I think there's like 7.8 billion people on planet Earth. So 1 in 8 people, depending on the way the population grows, will be someone whose lives will touch. And I'm okay with that. I also realize it's a little nuts to think something like this. So I realize that in order for me to have a shot at doing this in one lifetime, I have to teach the teachers how to teach more. So then you get that multiplicative
network effect.
Boom. Yeah. Chain reaction, right? I touch one person, they touch 5 people, they touch 5 people, and eventually gets there. So that one day it could be pulled back and it's like, yep, there it is. I'll give you one example. I'm not trying to equate myself with Bruce Lee, but I actually looked into Bruce Lee's life for a little bit. He only made a handful of films, and he was only alive for a very short period of time in which he was known as a martial artist. But the core group of people he taught, Jeet Kune Do, the book that he wrote, and he's a philosopher, I think that's what makes him the martial artist. And the handful of films that he made have lasted well beyond his lifetime and have influenced so many people that people can trace back to say, I'm a disciple of the disciple of the disciple of Bruce Lee, and I know Jeet Kune Do. And so that's really interesting to me. So what I want to do is have this massive ripple effect to reach the teachers so that they can teach more and say, look, I learned this from Chris, you've learning it. So it's like many generations back. Hopefully it can be pulled back to me as a source.
And because of social media, it's absolutely possible to hit this one.
Possible.
And I just want to let everybody know, I don't know if you guys noticed, it's not 1B, it's 1B minus 1. Like Chris writes that. I haven't done some research about that, but can I guess? And then you see if I'm right or wrong.
Yes.
Right. I think 1B minus 1, that 1 is you, right? because you say you want to teach 1 billion, but you teach yourself too, because you just mentioned that to be a good teacher, you need to be a good student. I'm just wondering, is that it or is something else?
No, but that's a good story. I like that. So I wanted to think of a hashtag, 1 billion minus 1. When you say 1 billion minus 1, it means, Chris, you can take 1 off the billion because I'm your 1. So I'm saying now you can only go for 999,990,000, something like that. So people are using a hashtag 1B minus 1. You can count me now.
Damn. Okay. I'm glad I didn't do the research and I was guessing it. So now you have.
I like your story though. Your story
I don't know. When I saw yours way earlier, I was like 1B minus 1Y. And then later on during this interview, I'll go, oh yeah. You want to be a good teacher, you got to be a good student. So you teach yourself first.
Yeah.
But there you go.
It's good theory. Look at this t-shirt here.
No, you teaching me. Oh, wait.
See that?
1 billion minus 1.
Yeah.
Oh,
see?
God.
So
I love
somebody
your merch.
made this for me.
I love your merch.
For me. Yeah.
This is beautiful,
awesome.
Chris. And Chris, what do you think is your biggest challenge right now that you're facing as you approach this 1B goal?
We have a long way to go. We have so long because we haven't figured out all the social platforms and how we can reach people. If Justin Bieber has a music video that has 760 million people look at it, if we can be Justin Bieber, we can achieve the goal in like 2 videos.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Psy, the guy who did Gangnam Style, that thing has over 1 billion views.
Or BTS, the Korean band,
How much do they have?
Yeah.
Millions, hundreds of millions of views, right? BTS, yes. So that's the thing though. That's the sad, unfortunate thing is that we would rather be consumed by pop culture, something that doesn't actually help us to grow up. Maybe it lifts you spiritually and you feel better and that's cool. So maybe we have to write songs and we have to do different things. And that's where we could fail terrifically, Eric. We can try some things and people are like, that was bad. Why'd you guys do that? I'm like, okay, no worries. We'll try another thing.
Try it. Yeah, like you said, be a T person, right? So education is your T, your dad, but you can do it in a song or a movie,
reality.
Right?
Who knows?
Yeah.
And we can tap into the things. I want to meet people where they're at, not tell them to come to me. So sometimes on our clubhouse calls, my friend Mo, he'll recap the lessons in freestyle rap form, and it's wonderful to hear. So I'm like, Mo, get your act together because we can take this thing on the road and we can teach people and hopefully go to stadiums where there's 10,000 people and we'll teach you. We'll help lift up your life. Why not?
And then have the entertainment.
Yes, well, the entertainment is why they're coming, right? So I think of it like this. People would not take medicine if medicine tastes bad. That's why they put it in a gel capsule. They make it easy to swallow so the medicine can disperse inside your body. Right. But if the pill tasted like the medicine, nobody would eat it. Yeah. So we have to learn what's the form that the medicine comes in. The medicine is the education. The capsule is the delivery, the entertainment part. So that's the mix of entertainment and education.
Edutainment.
Yeah.
Future learning.
Yep.
So for those of you listening, that's Chris' vision, that's Chris' challenge. But I think every single one of you here in Asia, right? This is an Asian podcast. Our top 5 countries is Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Hong Kong. We topped the charts last week for marketing. But in my defense, I think it's because there's not enough podcasts in Asia on the area of business. So,
or maybe you're good.
No, I don't want to be humble brag, but I really pick up a lot of tips for myself today. This podcast feels very selfish. It feels like I'm getting free mentorship from you. It affirms that really the most important point I learned from you, it's about being coachable. Like as long as you keep working on yourself, the deeper you work on yourself, the greater you are. In fact, again, in your book, you said that, or at least you quoted someone that says that personal development is their unfair advantage. Right. When you work on yourself, I think it was Jim Rohn. He says, if you work hard on your job, you make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you make a fortune. And I think that was so powerful. So those of you listening, if you are inspired by Chris, you have gotten value from Chris, let us all support his 1B goal. It's so easy to support his 1B goal. Just go to the future, go to YouTube, go watch his videos, go buy his merch. And most importantly, I think get his book. That's the most basic thing you guys can do. The pocket full of dough. It's beautiful. Even on my iPad, it could look as it can even do it as a phone cover. And it's so much useful bite-sized tips. It's 1 page per key takeaway. It's so easy to read. The essence of design is there. it will make your day very, very beautiful. And then you can use the hashtag 1B-1 because you're in that -1. So Chris, thank you so much for your acquaintance. Thank you so much for agreeing. And I'll do you proud. I'll put the things that you said into practice. I'll keep in touch with you. I'll let you know how I progress.
Beautiful.
Right.
I'm excited for your journey ahead.
Virtual high five.
Okay.
I'll see you in Singapore.
All right. See you soon. Take care.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Go. Hi, this is Eric here, and you're listening to #Highly Sought After. So there you go. That's Chris Doe. We didn't just get a pocket full of dough. We got an entire podcast full of dough wisdom. I've picked so much, from his brains. And this is my key takeaways on the topic of influence. I think my biggest takeaway from him is to be a thought leader, to have original thought. You need to first be making time to think. You need to make time to have private conversations with people. You need to take time to read, to digest, to observe the world, and to try things, right? Because people today, they don't just want to pay for your knowledge, they want to pay for your experience and for the mistakes that you make. And you can't be a thought leader, you can't be a person of influence if you're not going out there doing stuff and trying stuff and learning stuff and then sharing your key takeaways. So I thought that that was really powerful in the topic of influence. In the topic of marketing, specifically content, I've learned that quantity creates quality, and every single piece of content that you create, you have to come from an angle of wanting to solve a problem, wanting to tackle a topic that frustrates you, and also paying attention to what the market is asking you, because you don't want people to come to you. You want to go to people, and you go to people with your content by addressing their concerns and the questions that they have. So I thought that was very, very useful. And finally, on the topic of success, I think that my biggest takeaway from him is to constantly be a student. As much as I'm a teacher, teaching about branding in business, but I need to continue to be a good student, because as I keep learning, that's when I have value as a teacher. So, you guys got to go listen to this interview again. All right. And Chris, if you're watching this video, thank you so much for granting us this interview. And I look forward to host you in Asia. So guys, enjoy this interview. We produce this video podcast every week. We post this every week on YouTube. And if you love this video, remember to hit subscribe, like button, and I'll see you in the next video.